As you can tell with the excitement in my voice, not only do we have an outstanding panel, which we're going to get into introductions momentarily, we're going to be talking about some Xbox Series X SSD information. We're going to get a little techie for a change. We're going to be bringing Halo into the conversation and quite a few other topics that have been written originally for today's outstanding 2-hour program. And guess what, folks? At the end of the day, you'll hear us talking positive about the Xbox brand, something that seems to be at a very low amount recently, but you know what? That's what you get here. You get truth, you get a lot of excitement, but also you do get hashtag facts. So without further ado, let's introduce this outstanding panel. And the first up, you know him. He's one of the major cogs. If, as a matter of fact, I would dare call him a co-host of the Xbox Factor podcast, someone that cannot wait to play something in VR that's horror related just because he has nerves of steel. Please welcome Semi Games.
Beard Gang. What? No. Man, come on. Like, there's no way I could play VR like a horror game. I'm not even gonna play a horror game like on my screen, much less than VR. Like, I've believed for a very, very long time that is going to end up killing a lot of people.
I think so.
I think that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to have a lot of heart attacks from VR, like horror games. Like once it becomes like really just widespread. I don't know. Maybe I'm just dumb. But yeah, I'm super excited to be here. Boom. These topics are absolutely fantastic. I mean, I'm just really, really excited to jump into the SSD one. I think that's going to be amazing. And then Halo as well. I just cannot wait. So,
well, thanks again for being here. Yeah, we're going to open up with the SSD talk and get that right out of the way because we do have a panel of people that actually understand what an SSD does, what it means to the console, and the fact that maybe, just maybe, we'll figure out by the end of the conversation that the SSD in the Xbox Series X isn't a piece of garbage like most people are suggesting. Now, next up, you know him as... he's a PlayStation guy, but guess what? I hate saying that because he's a gamer. He's also one of the community's finest and newest members that has everybody in a tizzy because his personality is quite likable. You know him as Mr. Bad Bit. Welcome to the show, my friend.
What's up? What's up? My dog is going crazy downstairs, but I'll keep this quick. Listen, I'm hyped for Iron Man VR. I can't wait to play it. And we talk about horror in VR killing people. Well, it didn't kill my mother because that's the way I introduced her to VR. I gave her the kitchen demo.
Well, that wasn't good because I'm sure that she was lifting up her legs like I did when the head rolls across the floor.
It was the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
I hope she didn't have like a very large insurance policy that maybe this was some sort of a murder for hire kind of a thing. And
Kinda, sorta.
well, listen, dude, thanks so much for being here. Super appreciate your opinion and, of course, you being a part of this program. Next up, you know him as our resident educator, but quite frankly, a gamer through and through, someone that has a very amazing podcast of his own and someone that is making waves in this community. Please welcome Insipid Ghost.
What's up, Boom? Thank you for having me on yet again. I don't want to blow anybody's mind, but I've been enjoying, we just finished a full playthrough of all the Halo campaigns, so I'm ready to talk Infinite. And I also played Spider-Man on a PlayStation, and somehow...
That's what a fake fan would say, guys. That's what a fake Halo fan would do.
Somehow I made it.
Talk about it, so that's good.
That's right. Wow. It's crazy. Good to be here, buddy.
Well, listen, it's great to have you. And yes, I platinumed Spider-Man this year, as a matter of fact. Early on in the year, I platinumed it, and I am very proud to say that because I don't have a lot of platinums. I think I have 4. And that's one of them, and that's a big deal for me because I quite honestly loved what Insomniac did. But let's continue with the introduction so we can get right to the topics. And last, in no way least, now this is an upcoming podcaster who has been making tremendous strides on his YouTube channel. Quite frankly, has already gained the eye of Microsoft and several other big companies that have looked into his reviews, which I definitely suggest people look into because they're done professionally. All the way from Germany, the other side of the continent, please welcome Archimedes.
Good evening from over here. Thank you, Boom, for having me. What an epic introduction. Yeah, I missed you guys last week. Yeah, glad to be back, and we have some awesome topics. today, so let's get right to it.
Yeah, we do, and we're going to get right into it. But first, I have to. First of all, I'm going to welcome the near 140 people already here. Thank you so much for tuning in each and every week. Because at the end of the day, we would not have a show if it wasn't for not only the loyal fan base that that my channel has gotten over the last couple of years, but it's also the generosity. And speaking of generosity, someone who continues to show his generosity on almost a daily basis every time I do a show is Sin Vendetta. He drops an outstanding and very generous $10 super chat and says this: here's to the 7th-year anniversary to the disastrous Xbox One reveal event, and happy to see that the Series X reveal will be so much better. Great things are here. Oh yes, absolutely, dude. And thank you so much for your generosity. I think there's going to be a lot to be excited about with the Xbox 2020 event happening all the way through December of this year. We have a lot of information that's going to be provided. That's also going to help us put on great shows. But you know what? Let's get to the topics. Now, the reason I decided to open the show with the Unreal Engine 5 demo in conversation was because, in typical Sony fashion, the demo appeared to be an exclusive to the PlayStation 5, which, of course, moments after the event was finished live, it was clarified by Tim Sweeney of Epic Games, but during this presentation, Sweeney went on to say multiple times of how impressive the SSD technology was on the PlayStation 5, and didn't even bother mentioning PC or the Xbox in tone. What I think that he was almost forced through conversation through Jeff Keighley to even mention Xbox. Now, we have suspected that there was some deal, maybe some NDAs during a deal that was made, that it behooved them, as being a signed contract, to only mention that it was playing on a PlayStation 5, and only to mention how excited and impressed they were with the PlayStation 5 hardware. And of course, that's business, folks. And here's some quotes from Tim Sweeney that I thought were interesting, and basically clarifying that they've been working closely together with Sony. He said this: the Unreal Engine 5 demo on the PlayStation 5 was a culmination of years of discussions between Sony and Epic on the future graphics and storage architectures. The Nanite and Lumen tech powering it will be fully supported on both the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, and they will both be awesome. He also, and again, I think that the first comment was during the actual event with Jeff Keighley. The next set of quotes came, maybe a few hours afterwards. Now, I honestly believe that he must have either gotten pressure from the community, pressure from investors, or potentially pressure from Microsoft and somebody big within the PC community, because he obviously, this is what he said: this is maybe an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours after the event, and I already said the Nanite and Lumen tech powering it will be fully supported on both the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, and will be awesome on both. He then follows it with another tweet saying, and high-end PCs. And then a third one, which I thought was interesting, and will feature for scaling the content down to run on current generation platforms using traditional rendering and lighting techniques. And then, I guess, to try to make light of the fact that he tweeted multiple times, almost covering his tracks, he said Commodore 64 will not be supported. And that was the end of his tweets. Now, again, Tim Sweeney, not a guy that's usually in the spotlight. We know that for a fact. But again, I understand business is business, and they have some sort of a deal. Again, we don't know what the actual particulars are, but they do have some sort of a deal with Sony, and that's why they showed it on the PS5. But you know what? This wouldn't be a proper show if we didn't bring Microsoft back into the conversation, and we're going to talk about the Xbox Series X velocity architecture for a second. And of course, as we know, that is what will be powering the new console, and in many ways taking advantage of the SSD in ways that could be even more superior to the PlayStation 5. We don't know. We can only guess at this point. But John Linneman, I think you know him from Digital Foundry. They're considered to be the end all in tech discussion on YouTube and their website Eurogamer. Now, John had some very interesting things to say regarding the SSD and how virtual memory, hardware decompression, and the new DirectX 12 Ultimate will all work in tangent to take full advantage of the console's extremely fast SSD. Now, here are some of John's quotes. He says this: the Xbox Velocity architecture allows Series X to access 100 gigabytes of data instantly in real time, and explains why the Hellblade 2 trailer looked so detailed and how the SSD solution is extremely efficient. And during the Eurogamer article, they had a quote here, and I want to read this exactly what it means. The sampler feedback streaming, also known as SFS, it says this: a component of the Xbox Velocity architecture, the SFS is a feature on the Xbox Series X hardware that allows games to load into memory with fine granularity. Only the portions of textures that the GPU needs for a scene as it needs it. This enables far better memory utilization for textures, which is important given every 4K texture consumes 8 megabits of memory. Because it avoids the wastage of loading into memory the portions of textures that are never needed. It is effective 2 to 3 times or higher multiplier on both amount of physical memory and SSD performance. Now, I'm going to bring Archimedes immediately into the conversation because Archimedes, you, my friend, out of the panel, I think have the more technical prowess, if you will. And we have been hearing in the last, week or so, there have been several people that have been talking up this unbelievable SSD that the PlayStation 5 has. And I have no doubt that it is unbelievable. We have heard from multiple circles that is where they spent most of their development money. As a matter of fact, it's why certain things like teraflops and GPU and CPU advantages aren't as pronounced in this PS5 as opposed to the Xbox Series X, because they really put their development oomph, if you will, behind the SSD. And that's fine. That's fine. That's what Sony wanted to do. And I'm sure it's going to be a very incredible, capable console. But on the back end of what I just said, it appears that there are some people, some circles, some podcasts, some gaming journalists that seem to address the Xbox Series X SSD as if it was found in a dumpster behind GameStop. They kind of just figured, well, F it, let's just throw that into the console and hope that it works. When that is not, in fact, the case whatsoever. What are your thoughts on the SSD on the PlayStation 5 versus the SSD and the Velocity architecture in the Xbox Series X?
Yeah, well, if I would trust my timeline on Twitter, you don't need a CPU and GPU anymore to run a console. Yeah, all you need is an SSD. But seriously, the SSD in the PlayStation 5 is an impressive piece of tech. There is no doubt about it, and I get the reasoning behind Sony's decision to go full in a fast and quick responsive SSD. There are other compromises they had to make, and in the end we can only judge when we see actual games running on the system. But several tech experts throughout this different media sites, and I'm not talking about the IGNs and GameSpots of this world here, they all agree upon one thing: the Xbox is designed without having a bottleneck. You can have a super fast SSD. This is absolutely a great thing to do. But if you get bottlenecked on other parts, you won't be able to leverage the whole capability of your SSD. Now, I'm not saying that this will definitely happen. All what we know, Microsoft put a lot of thought into the whole system. They made a complete holistic approach when they designed their system, and the velocity architecture that they always mention is a perfect example of what they did. The SSD of the Xbox is, and people forget that, is a really fast one. Yeah, if you compare it to the PC market, yes, there are faster SSDs out there than in the Xbox. Yeah. By the way, there are also faster SSDs out there than in the PlayStation 5. Yeah. But yes, it is still a very medium to high paced SSD. So this is actually one thing people always forget. We are getting a very fast SSD in that system, but Microsoft has added a couple of other things that make that system really, well, let's say, intelligent. Yeah. One thing you already mentioned is that sampler feedback streaming.
Yes.
This is a very smart thing to do, because I don't know if that is really clear what it actually does, but I try to explain it very simple. Today, everything you need to compute your game, needs to be in the RAM, the memory pool, because this is the only memory pool you have that is fast enough that the GPU and CPU can actually compute with the data in there. And this won't change with the SSD. The only thing is you can load stuff faster from the hard drive into the RAM. So today, I make an example. Today you have a game, and everything that could possibly happen in that game for the next minute or so must be loaded into the RAM, because you don't know whether you turn on the next crossroad left or right. You have to load in both assets, whether you turn on the next corner left or right, because you don't know what will happen, and you cannot access the data from the hard drive fast enough. This is going to change. And I've read that on Digital Foundry, and I found that comparison very good. Sony is trying to brute force this whole thing. They only want to have, for, let's say, the next 4 or 5 seconds of the game in the memory pool. So how do they do that? They have simply a fast SSD. Microsoft is taking another approach. They have a fast SSD to access the data more quickly, but they also have a hardware mechanism behind it to recognize what are the assets that you actually need in the next 5 seconds. So it's just a different approach, and it is more, well, it for me personally, it seems a little bit more sophisticated than the PS5 approach. I still believe the PS5 will be able to load in assets faster than Microsoft, but the gap will be significantly smaller than the raw numbers might make you think it is. The delta will be very, very small. Microsoft has other things in there. They have that hardware decompression blocks in there. This is also something. People forget that the data in your game on the hard drive is not just on the hard drive. It is always compressed in there, kind of like a zip file. If you want to compare it to that, and you have, if you load your data from your hard drive, you have to first decompress that zip file. Well, it's not a zip file, but I just use it as an example. And Microsoft has simply put in a hardware block to decompress that. On the PlayStation side, from all what we have heard so far about the system, the CPU has to do that. They have to decompress that whole thing. And therefore, you will also have a delta there. In the end, it is the approach from Sony is okay. We kind of brute force it, via the raw speed of the SSD. While Microsoft has put in a lot of mechanisms, they thought, okay, let's save a little money on the SSD. We put that money into a bigger CPU, a bigger GPU, and we built in other intelligent methods to compromise that delta. And in the end, I think the SSD is faster of the PS5, but the difference in between the capabilities of the Xbox loading in assets and loading in assets from the PlayStation 5 will be smaller than people think right now if they just look at the numbers that you get on the data sheet of the two SSDs. So yeah, if we listened to the people on social media over the last days, everybody says, okay, this whole Unreal Engine demo is only possible because of the SSD. In the Epic China department, they published something.
Yeah, yeah. They pulled that video down moment
exactly.
after it went live. Yeah.
Yes, but the internet never forgets, and now we all know that you can run that demo on an SSD that is actually slower than the Xbox One SSD, and that system didn't have the Velocity architecture behind it. So I think in the end we will definitely see maybe a delta in between the Xbox and the PlayStation when it comes to pure load times. Yeah, how fast can you load that level? But that there is a significant difference in between graphics and game design in between the two systems, I doubt that significantly.
You know what it comes down to? It comes down to the word narrative. It comes down to, unfortunately, social media is a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful tool for smaller, YouTubers like everyone that's here. We get the word out to people. They get to, they think, oh wow, there's a new podcast. Let me check it out. They like it, they hate it, whatever. It's fine. It's fine. But the narrative, the running narrative for Microsoft since this generation started has always been it's a constant goalpost movement. And again, I don't get frustrated because it's people's opinions, and my dad taught me when I was a small, opinions are like a-holes, everyone has one, right? So whatever, that's fine. But the reality is that it's honestly, as someone that's going to be 50 years old at the end of the summer, it is sad to see these so-called console warriors arguing and making themselves act as if we're all children on a playground, talking about Batman is better than Superman, and you're sticking your tongue out at me, and and that's ridiculous. And it's also frustrating because social media is supposed to be a fun place where you go and hang out. That's why, thanks to a very good friend of the show, a very good human being for that matter, Wilmy Hood, I've learned a lot from hanging out with that dude. And I've been blocking people left and right. Now, and again, go back maybe 3 or 4 months ago. I don't like blocking people because I'm a very social kind of a person. I'm very inclusive. I love everybody, and I think I put that out there. But I've been blocking people, and you know what? It's cleaned up my timeline. But you know what? Forget that. Let's continue talking about games. But before I do, and I'm going to bring Zemi into the conversation, I have to just catch up on some of these super chats as we welcome in 306 people already here listening. If you are enjoying the show, do me a favor, man. Hit that like button. It would be greatly appreciated. It helps me with the statistics for YouTube's ridiculous algorithm that no one is ever going to figure out. But real quick, Velvet Lulu drops a $5 super chat. First of all, thank you so much for being here, but also your outstanding generosity. And they say some of these PlayStation guys had to swallow a lot of chug, thinking that the Unreal Engine 5 demo could run on the Xbox because of the SSD. It's hard to fight these Sony fanatics. You know what? Block everyone. Your timeline will look so much better. Oh, a very good friend of the show, Smitty Smith, drops an outstanding and very generous $5 super chats. First of all, Smitty, thank you so much for being here. Love what you do with this community. He says this: hello, Boom, Zem, Archimedes, Luke, Badbit, and chat. The Book of X. Yes, well, hello to you, my friend. We appreciate it very much that you're here listening and enjoying the program. And Charles Paul. Hey, Charles, thanks so much for hanging out with us. And also your generosity of $2 super chat. He says, P.S. PlayStation SSD loads as you turn. The Xbox Series X loads whole scenes. Yeah, I mean, listen, we're gonna get to see this in action. Oh, and failed Powerman said, hey, dude, thanks so much for being here. He says Batman is better than Superman. You know something? I would agree with that because I do like Batman better than Superman.
That's the truest comment I've ever heard in my life.
There you go. Geekhead188, thanks for being here, my friend. He drops a $2 super chat and says, okay, Superman is way better. This is going to turn into a DC. And you know what? It's I'm going to pause this, and I'm kind of just going to throw this out there. I'm a big nerd. I'm a big old nerd. I collect comics. I collect toys. I have everything. I'm a big old nerd, and that's fine. And I'm not sure how many people enjoyed Justice League, the butchered one that was done by Josh Whedon. Well, good news, folks. The original director, Zack Snyder, his cut is coming to HBO Max, and it's going to be, guess what? Almost 4 hours long. The original, the one with Darkseid in it, which is going to be very interesting. That's coming next year. There's AT&T approved a $20 million for reshoots and finishing up the tech and computer graphics. So it's going to be a full-on film, the original version and vision of Zack Snyder. But now stepping on the gas and getting back to the conversation, Zemi, look, you have a YouTube channel, yep, and you are obviously on this show on a weekly basis. And my question, very simply to you, is with the information that was just provided by us by someone that actually knows what the hell he's talking about in Archimedes, do you have faith that the narrative of the SSD somehow being a big pile of shit, pardon my French, that's been shoved into the Xbox Series X and just kicked out of the door like an orphan, do you feel that this narrative is going to eventually be put to bed once we get to see the games running on it?
Well, what I think as soon as we go to GameStop and buy our Xbox, we need to go behind GameStop, find a dumpster, any dumpster really. I mean, pretty much. I mean, it doesn't even have to be behind GameStop. It could be
what behind a Chinese restaurant.
That honestly, that might even be better. You know what I mean? That way you could get you a little something to eat out of the dumpster after. There you go. Excellent. But basically, what we want to do is open the lid and just chuck our Xbox straight into that dumpster. If you're at the Chinese restaurant, grab you some food, of course. Why not? Take it home, enjoy that, because you're going to enjoy that thrown away Chinese food better than you're ever going to enjoy that Xbox Series X. You know what I mean? No, I mean, it's ridiculous, right? Is the PlayStation's SSD better? Yes, sure it is. And from what I have been reading, some people are saying that it's going to be twice the speed of what of the SSD that's going to be in the Xbox, and that's great. That's great for PlayStation. But like what you were saying, a lot of it comes down to narrative, right? And what the narrative actually legitimately looks like to me is, yes, PlayStation has an SSD. I think that this next console generation is going to be based really heavily on SSDs because the capability of SSDs are just so much better than the hard drives that we've been using, in the past. But an SSD isn't a GPU. It isn't a processor. It isn't RAM. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, so it's not going to be the be all end all. I think for a lot of consumers, what they have to look at is, yes, PlayStation has a better SSD, but Xbox has, a better graphics. It looks like they're going to have a better, or a faster processor, and I think also faster RAM. So overall, Xbox is a better round package of what you're going to be getting. Yes, you're not going to be getting, the fastest SSD, but you're going to be getting the better graphics, the better CPU, the better, not really the better, but the faster CPU, and so on. You know what I mean? And also with Xbox, you're going to be getting Game Pass, and you're going to get a game company that has 15, 16 studios now all making first party games. And more importantly, it looks like you're going to get affordability with Xbox with their all access program, with hopefully the second SKU that will be announced, in June or July. So you're going to be getting a lot with Xbox. But on the flip side, yes, PlayStation does have a faster SSD. They have a fantastic lineup of first party games, and they have PlayStation VR, which Xbox does not currently have any VR. So, to me, this is just another thing that, every single console generation, it's just another tick for Sony's, side of the argument to consumers of why they should get a PlayStation above an Xbox. But with that being said, them having this faster SSD doesn't mean that Xbox is dead. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that PlayStation just killed Xbox. Xbox has an SSD. They have fantastic tech. They have a plan going into this next generation. And if you buy an Xbox, you're going to more than likely, and I hope so, be a happy consumer. The same way if you buy a PlayStation 5, you are going to be a happy consumer. I hope so, right? So just because PlayStation has a faster SSD does not mean that, Xbox is dead. The same way that because Xbox has Game Pass and they have, powerful, a more powerful graphics, card or chip or whatever you want to call it in the console, doesn't mean that PlayStation's dead. It's just another aspect for consumers to, have to consider going into the store this holiday. So I think, like you said before, it does come down to narrative, and a lot of it is, PlayStation trying to sway the narrative that because they have this, I don't know if it's PlayStation trying to sway the narrative or the PlayStation fans trying to sway the narrative, but the narrative is trying to go, because PlayStation has such an amazing SSD, they're going to blow Xbox out of the water, and they're not, Xbox isn't going to be capable of playing a lot of next gen games, using the Unreal 5 engine, which is absolutely absurd. And that's what the narrative is trying to sway people to. But the real narrative is it's just a trade-off. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There are things that you're going to get out of Xbox that you're not going to get out of PlayStation, the same way that you're going to get some things out of PlayStation that you're not going to get out of Xbox. This what you just said right there leads to the conversation of, listen, if you are someone that is financially responsible and you can figure out a way to purchase both consoles, I say go for it. I say go for it because it eliminates the conversation as a whole when it comes to my D is bigger than yours. Because you know what, you can measure the D's together sitting on your console or where your TV is, right? And again, that's what I'm doing. I'm buying a PlayStation 5 day one. I'm buying every launch title. I'm getting a second controller. It's what I always do. And the Xbox, well, thankfully, all I have to do is buy an Xbox and potentially another controller. I mean, I do already have 7, which 3 are elites, but I'm probably going to get a second controller. Maybe there'll even be a custom controller for Halo Infinite or something that will be available, and I will buy that. And the really good thing is I don't have to buy any games because every launch game will be in Game Pass. It's something that one advantage financially that I think Microsoft has way over Sony for that matter. But you know what, Luke, let's bring you into the conversation, my brother. But before I do, let me just catch up on a couple of these super chats. First of all, Smitty Smith once again with the outstanding, very generous $10 super chat. He says this, because why not? Here you go, brother. Well, thank you so much for your generosity. It is truly appreciated. And Sin Vendetta once again shows his generosity. Where to go? Here it is. He says this. He drops a $5 super chat and says, well, you're all wrong because Goku will kill both Superman and Batman. And you know something? You are correct, especially if he goes Saiyan or Super Saiyan, I should say. Smitty Smith, come on. I mean, he once again blesses this house with his outstanding generosity and says, shout out to Mrs. Boomstick, and Green Lantern is awesome. Well, thank you, dude. Super appreciate that. And, Luke, here's the thing. Again, we don't do console warring on this channel. We don't do console warring on this show, but we do have to bring in narratives and conversations that are currently enveloping, if you will, social media, especially a lot of the circles that we roll in. And I kind of did this topic because, I wanted it, to be understood
especially by the Xbox community, that we do see what's going on and we will occasionally address it. And I think that it needed to be addressed simply on this show because, again, the way that they're talking about the SSD for Sony's machine, as if it's almost to the point of it being godlike, when that is not in fact the case. It's a fast SSD, sure, but it's so the narrative has been so one-sided, and no one is talking about the DirectX 12 Ultimate. No one's talking about the velocity architecture. No one's talking about the SSD and how all of those things in tangent are going to make the Xbox Series X that great of a console. And I thought we should do that. What are your thoughts on one versus the other? Is it an outrageous narrative that no one is willing to challenge?
I agree with you in the idea that narrative is important, and generations are won and lost upon narrative. And Microsoft chose to create the narrative when they made the Xbox One X, that they were going to be the most powerful console, and that would be the narrative that they spun for themselves and pushed. Whether that proved fruitful or not, I think can be argued or debated. They certainly recovered from 7 years ago, that's for sure. But the narrative that's being spun now is a product of situations that have to do with greasing palms in terms of Sony, showing off Unreal Engine 5. I don't mean any shady greasing of palms. That's a silly thing.
Just a business tactic. I know what you mean.
Yes, exactly. There you go. And Microsoft is taking a different tact in showing their stuff a little bit later after having they've dominated the conversation in a positive light since the Game Awards. From the Game Awards all the way through to the most recent Inside Xbox, the news has been pretty genuinely good to great for Xbox. Mm-hmm. They've seen Game Pass numbers rise. Everyone's been excited about the Series X. They had the tower design, which was different. And now, because of Sony's silence and then quick reveal, people are getting excited and examining things, because the most previous news prior to this Unreal Engine and SSD display was Mark Cerny putting us to sleep. So I think that has to do with a lot of it. Now people are excited. PlayStation certainly has a lot of fans in and out of the media, which is understandable. They've done a great job this gen. And so people are now finding reasons to be excited because we don't have sports. We got nothing else. So we're looking forward to this stuff. Now, specific to the SSD stuff, I'm grateful for people like Archimedes who understand it and recognize where bottlenecks may ensue and where efficiency will matter, where power will matter, where it won't. And for somebody like me, if you put a Camaro and a Mustang next to each other, I'm gonna be like, yep, those are two fast cars, and the vertical pedal on the right makes them go, and they look cool. To a car connoisseur, those are very different machines, right? And so that's why Ford and Chevy constantly compete for narrative to sell to the masses, to the layman like me. And the way you do that has to do with, how you display your content, what type of content you have, being the games, being the services. I just saw this morning, right at 11 o'clock, or when we went live, or 12 o'clock, when we went live, Major Nelson retweeting an article that talks about Game Pass destroying Sony. Well, Major Nelson retweeted a narrative that says destroying PlayStation. That's an interesting tact that I don't think we'd seen it as aggressive. So building the narratives are important. The games will matter more. If the load time is 3 seconds to 4 seconds, most people will not notice that, will not care. How many people have bought a Switch and power had nothing to do with it? Went to Switch Lite, went to Xbox One X versus Xbox One S. And so it's all about a mindset and a mind share. And Xbox has put its cards on the table thus far. In a pretty good hand, I would argue. They're going to be relying on third parties to help them with announcements through June. And then in July, they come with what looks to be their power slate. And we'll see truly whether or not we actually care about this SSD stuff. That's when we'll find out is when we look at the content. Proof is always in the pudding. That Lumen demo, my goodness, it was wonderful. I mean, it was
wonderful. You know what? It was wonderful, but also heartbreaking to know that character will never get to know her.
Yeah, I agree.
We live in a world where the Snyder Cut is now real.
Yes.
So you don't put it past anybody to create things. Money greases the wheels, and if people demand it and are allowed, there's a possibility that somebody somewhere will see a profit in it. And so I'm all in on the idea that it's not dead and that it could be a thing. It's very clear that was an engine demo, and if that was how it works on PS5 and Xbox is more powerful, great. If it's not a matter of whether or not it could work as well or not, I mean, how well does the Division run on Xbox One X versus PS4 Pro? You know, like does that difference matter? Does it? And that's the narrative that we go with there.
I mean, listen, everyone had great points. We are awaiting Mr. Badbit. Now, he said he'd be back in a second. So if he's not back yet, we will just continue this conversation. And I'll say this. Look, again, regardless of where you lie your head on what pillow, whether that's a PlayStation pillow, whether that's an Xbox pillow, whether that's a Switch, or someone like myself who has a multi-tiered bunch of pillows. One is not enough, so I have 3. To keep this big, this big head comfortable. I say that, both consoles, meaning the PlayStation 5 and, of course, the Xbox Series X, are going to be great in their own ways. And I think that they're both going to be capable. Now, when you talk about raw power, we already know, without even trying to attempt to be funny, who has the power. The power narrative was promised to be retained by Microsoft. Phil Spencer said that numerous times, and they kept up their end of the bargain. And right now, the only thing that they're, I guess, slightly behind in Sony's console would be the SSD. And again, when we were talking about this pre-game, if you're telling me that you're gonna load in 5 to 8 seconds faster than than my console, but I have a better GPU and a CPU, you know what? You can have those 8 seconds. You can have them and you can enjoy them and do whatever you want to do in those 8 seconds as I wait. I would rather have the power narrative personally. And I'd rather have Microsoft bring to the table with everything you get when you buy an Xbox. And that's, of course, the services. And you know what? Again, Mr. Badbit, are you back, sir?
I am, sir. Sorry about that.
Let's bring you into the conversation. But before I do, I have to shout out where is it over here? Where are you, Sin Vendetta? Because he dropped something, and I thought I saved this for you. First of all, Sin Vendetta drops an additional outrageous $5 super chat and says this: SSDs, GPUs, CPUs, and narratives don't mean nearly as much to me as a Bloodborne 2 announcement. Am I right, Mr. Badbit?
And that's absolutely where it is. Like that, that's why I always I don't hate these conversations, but I hate the conversations I see online, which is like and a lot of it when we get down to the brass tacks, is this a few people doing inside jokes or trolling to troll? They don't really have a foot in the race. They don't really care. They just want to get people riled up. They too have their own narratives that they want to push as well. It's a weird popularity contest. So like for me, I take a look at Microsoft. I take a look at like someone in the chat said this, right? Like it's what, the 7th anniversary of like what was one of the worst press conferences in video game history, right? That Xbox
Donnie
One.
D.
Donnie D, that son of a gun. Like, and then going back to the E3 7 years prior, absolute bombshell, and it defined a generation. That one big misstep. So seeing where we are now with the Xbox, it's a total 180.
Yes,
they're doing amazing things, and we could riddle them down all day. But like, to think about, in the beginning of this generation, you needed an Xbox Gold membership to watch Netflix, and now they're giving away their first party games for $15 a month. Like, that is a totally different company. Seeing them in the sitting with the grown-ups at the Microsoft table, right? As Phil Spencer is now an advisor to Satya Nadella. That's where Microsoft, where Xbox is right now. And it goes to show, you could even go back to Nintendo's missteps with the Wii U. And it's the one thing that I hate when people are like, oh, this is it. PlayStation's dead, Xbox dead, Nintendo dead. Those dead narratives are so ridiculously dumb because they're all billion-dollar companies. They can
really
bounce back from whatever. Like the Wii U sold like a little bit more than the Vita, and look, Nintendo came out with the Switch and they're making buku bucks, right? The PS3 was a disaster. It took them a generation to make money on that console. And look, they came out with the PS4s making buku cash. Right? Xbox missteps. We can even go back to the original. The original Xbox didn't make money. They were growing a fan base, and then they killed it with the 360, and then they stumbled with the One, and now they're killing it right now. Like the whole thing, like there is a dick measuring contest here, folks.
Sure.
Of like, what console is more powerful? Obviously, I'm the PlayStation guy. It's the Xbox One X. Obviously, going to be the Series X, right? What console sold more? Obviously, the PlayStation 4 did.
Yeah.
Obvious, more than double. That's just math. Does that affect the games I play? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like I'm choosing to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey on my PlayStation 4 Pro than my Xbox One X because I just prefer the ecosystem over one than the other.
You also might like the controller.
Exactly. There's
several different variables.
And trophies and achievements matter in that as well because it brings your narrative of your legacy with that console with you.
Yes. Exactly. And that's the important thing is like we all forget at the end of the day, guys. Like I know no one that is shitting on Xbox going, oh, this SSD is garbage. I see everybody going, the SSD is going to be really fast. And they have all these other little tricks and quirks that they're going to pull with this console to have that speed still be there, but not sacrifice the raw graphical capabilities of this console. I'm seeing two consoles that are practically the same. Like the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox One X, Series X, sorry. Let's get uncomfortable here. They're practically the same box. And if even 2 generations, you saw a Gears of War 3 being ported to the PS3 secretly just to test things out, we see the barrier to entry is all it is between what you're deciding on is the emblem and the thing that no one's talking about, the games.
Which at
that's
the end
what
of
it
the
comes
day,
down to.
It's pretty much the most important thing.
It is the most important thing. I'm going there for a reason. It's not to see the most beautiful thing I could possibly see. It is to play the most engaging thing that I can play right now. And so like I'm excited for the PS5. I'm very excited for the Series X. I want to get both when launch day happens. We'll see if the economy agrees with Joe at that time. But like it's an awesome thing to see where Microsoft's like, listen, speed's cool, but we're gonna give you the most powerful box we can have, and that's their selling point. That's what's making their box different than their competition. A PlayStation going, well, okay, we don't want to enter the uncanny valley. So graphics are nice, but we want to make it so that like when you put in a disc, you're not even loading anything. You're instantly playing it. There's no more patches, right? You're just plugging in and playing. That's it. We want to get back to the cartridge days, and we think this IO capability is that.
As long as I don't have to just take them out and blow them and get them to work.
Right? Yeah, man, and like that aren't both of those things cool? Like having the ability of us like, like, bam, instantly playing a game. Awesome. No more patches. God, how many articles are going to be written up about Warzone's latest patch that adds another, 10 plus gigabytes of space
to your hard drive?
Yeah,
that's the promise that Stadia had initially when they thought they were marketing well, and I would imagine that's going to be a marketing kick for xCloud when that becomes a primary service.
Yeah, and so like at the end of the day, both of these consoles are doing two different things, which is great to see both of them do. I don't want it to be where this generation was just like, yeah, they're pretty much the same thing. Like, there's nothing really different about them. So it's cool that they're doing two different things. It's awesome to see where both of them are sitting on the tables of their companies respectively. One being like Jim Ryan, say what you will about this guy and how awkward he is on camera, but like he is the vice president of Sony just in general right now. Like that's telling you
he did amazing things in Europe, and he took on a market that at one point was dominated by the Xbox 360 and the Xbox branding. And he took that on with the PlayStation 4 branding, and he made it almost, I believe the numbers are 3-1 in console sales, and he's responsible for that. So he is he's not a rah-rah guy, right?
No,
He's maybe a little awkward when he gets in front of the camera, but behind the scenes, behind that desk, he's the right guy that Sony needs. There's just no doubt about it.
And that's the thing. And we have the right people, it looks like right now, knock on wood, on both sides of the table, fighting for your money. No one's being complacent here. No one's resting on their laurels. They're both challenging each other in various different ways. Remember, like Xbox challenged PlayStation so that PlayStation now needs crossplay in most AAA games. That is a standard because Microsoft, put their foot on Sony's throat and said, "Do it." Right? That's why that's there. And at the same stroke, the reason why Xbox has Ninja Theory, the reason why Xbox has Obsidian, the reason why Xbox, billions,
all of this
billions
money
of dollars
is because of the pressure that was put on them by Sony when they're first party. No doubt about it.
Exactly. So
yeah, no doubt.
Both consoles are going to be great, guys. Call me King Neutral. I don't care.
No. Listen, dude. No, listen. This is not an argumentative panel. This is not an argumentative channel. You bring facts. We talk about it. If we have a disagreement or we don't agree, like adults, we break it down, and that's exactly what everyone did. And you know what? This has been a fantastic way to open up the show. I want to move on to the next big topic, and I cannot wait to get into this, but I really have to catch up on the super chats because people's generosity have once again completely nearly brought me to tears. It is unbelievable. Pixelbit G shows his generosity with an outstanding and very generous $10 super chat and says this: both NVIDIA and AMD are championing DirectX 12 Ultimate, so you'd have to be batty to think that power and balance of the Series X isn't legit. And Sony is betting on ignorance. And Microsoft needs to move to shut down the noise, and they will do that in July with this event. They're going to impress a lot of people. J1405NL. Hey, Jay, thanks so much for being here. Love the beard. He drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says this: console war is for babies. I'm buying both day one. Yes, I agree. Nightwolf 3186 once again shows his outstanding and very generous, his generosity by dropping a $10 super chat and says this: loving the show and panel once again. Everyone do yourself a favor and catch Boom's new one-on-one with his brother Neo Mental. After this, I couldn't stop laughing. Such nostalgia and memories. Yes, if you didn't know, this past Tuesday and Tuesdays moving forward, I'm going to be doing a new series called One-on-Ones. The first show of this new program for Double Barrel Gaming was with my brother Neo Mental, and we really kind of wrenched it back into some classic kid stories growing up, and where we came from and what gaming meant for both of us. And it was a lot of laughs. It was 90 minutes of hilarity. So if you want to know about Boomstick and more specifically my brother and where we came from in the Bronx and hear some of our classic stories, check that out, because I think I didn't expect a lot of people to enjoy it as much as I did and he did, but I got a lot of tremendous amount of good feedback for it, and I'm glad everyone enjoyed it. And our good friend of the show, Robert Jones, drops an outstanding and very generous $22 super chat and says this: Archimedes info is very good about the Microsoft SSD. One thing they also talked about is heat on the SSD and how it affects the ability to work. And one of the reasons they chose to do the 2.4 SSD that they did. I didn't know that, and that's a great point. And yes, and Archimedes is always welcome here because his knowledge is tremendous. And Smitty Smith, once again, dude, thank you so much. He drops another $5 super chat and says this: Boom, you keep spoiling us with having Zemi, Archimedes, Luke, and Badbit on the panel. This must continue. I won't go back. I just won't. Yeah, listen, you know what?
Here. Thank you.
Listen, I say this with absolute clarity. This panel that I have on today, that has worked together on a regular basis, is some of my favorite people in gaming right now. And I truly mean that, simply because they are some of the most honest, thought-provoking, and hard-working podcasters and community members that I personally know, and getting to work with them on a weekly basis is an absolute honor and a treat for me personally. And you know what? I don't think that super chat could have said it any better, guys. You guys deserve all the accolades, and certainly I hope that being on these shows have spotlighted your own incredible shows, because you all deserve the same amount of eyes that I have on this show to then focus on yours, because you do great jobs. But the Board Game Renegade drops a $2 super chat. Thank you for your generosity, but more importantly, dude, thanks for hanging out. He says PS5 gets it up faster, but the X series of the Xbox Series X lays the pipe better. Wow, that's a sexual innuendo. And if Munoof Nukem was here, who I thought was going to be here, would have really enjoyed that sexual innuendo. So thank you for that, dude. But you know what? Let's get back to gaming. And let's talk about 343 Industries here for a second, folks. Now, listen, we have talked, and Zemi obviously will admit this with me, we have talked about Halo Infinite to the point of nauseum, because guess what? We're all Halo fans, and we want Master Chief to return in a big way. But what we haven't talked about is 343 Industries, the actual development team that's going to make our dreams, potentially nightmares, come true once Halo Infinite launches, hopefully this fall with the Xbox Series X. But 343 Industries did something a little out of character, where I believe they officially have drawn a line in the sand and threw down their chalk and clipboards and said, F this, we're tired of being quiet. Because, they had a lot to say from their blog. And, obviously, what's important is they explained what we should expect from the July first party showcase, which is going to be dedicated to giving us up a closer look of all of the big first party titles developed by Xbox Game Studios, and promises first looks at new gameplay, insights from development teams being optimized for Xbox Series X, and brand new game announcements. Now, in a post that I pulled directly from the official Halo Waypoint blog, 343 Industries kept its confirmation short and to the point, almost suggesting that they were ready to show everyone what they've been hard at work on for years. And they wrote this: you may have seen people talking about this lightly before, but we're extremely excited to confirm that Halo Infinite will be one of the many first-party titles included in the Xbox 2020 event in July. Get ready! Exclamation point. Okay, so Zemi, I'm going to you first on this. First of all, this is a big deal. It's such a big deal because it gave me goosebumps. And it gave me goosebumps for the simple fact that we have not heard from the team at 343. They've had their heads down and they've been working real hard, and they've been reading all of the people's concerns. They've been reading all of the. I'm sure that they're reading Twitter and other forms of social media. But for them to come out and say, you know what, get ready with the exclamation point, says to me that they're just tired of people doubting their capability. What does that statement, even though it's short, it's sweet, it's to the point, but it's powerful, like He-Man, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, they must just not watch this show. I mean, I hate to say it, but some people have been talking lightly. We've been talking about Halo every single week. I mean, plus last week's conversation, that was not talking lightly. You know what I mean? And then get ready. What are you talking about? Get ready. Everybody's been ready for Halo. You know what I mean? I just think that's just kind of funny. I like their statement though. I really actually do. And it speaks of confidence, they have been definitely looking at everybody's responses, their replies on Twitter, on, their replies for their blog posts, stuff like that. Obviously, I think it's, a pretty good thought that their community managers and stuff like that are looking through YouTube and looking at the big Halo YouTubers that are still around and listening to their thoughts on what they think the next Halo game should be. They're definitely looking at community feedback. Of course they are. And ultimately, I think that's great. And I think that it's also amazing that we finally 110% know that we will see Halo during the July event. We will see, we'll definitely see gameplay. You know what I mean? And before now, I mean, we kind of all assumed that we would see Halo in July, but this is actually confirming that we will see Halo in July. One thing I also did kind of notice off of this was they didn't, really say anything of how we would see it. And so, last week we were kind of talking about how we think that 343 should show off Halo Infinite. And, part of this kind of sounds like it's going to be together, like it's going to be like the opening or the closer of whatever the July event is. So, and you guys were kind of talking about how you would like it to have its own separate thing. And I'm sure it will probably have its own separate thing eventually. But from the sound of this in July, I just kind of get the feeling that it's going to be included in the entire July event that Xbox is producing. And so one really big thing that I hope that 343 and that Xbox, Team Green does is spend ample time on Halo.
Yeah, they have to. Yes,
they really do. Because with an expected release date of here in like 5 months, I think. I mean, math's never been my thing, but like it's so close to the expected release date of this game, and this game will be releasing alongside with the console. So long as there's no pushbacks. So it's super, super important that they get Halo ingrained in people's minds and that they show us enough to get us absolutely excited about this game, get the casuals excited, and get the hardcore, fans excited. And so, I'm absolutely excited that we finally know that we will 110% see Halo Infinite at the July event. But I definitely am kind of still somewhat worried that maybe they won't spend enough time on it.
You know what? I'm going to say this. Mr. Badbit brought up a tremendous point before, where he said that
I did.
Yeah, you did. You actually did. Where Sony dropped the ball, and them dropping the ball made them better, right? Mm-hmm. Microsoft. We saw his point with Nintendo with the Wii U dropping the ball, right? Them making the mistake made them better. I believe the same thing is going to happen with Microsoft in regards to, again, you and I both, according to Zemi, had both positive reviews regarding the May 7th event. Some people didn't, and that's perfectly fine. But when you look back to what Sony did last week with Ghost of Tsushima, that was 18 minutes of gameplay, mm-hmm. and it was glorious.
Yes,
glorious gameplay. I can honestly say that Microsoft has minutes after the May 7th event, they read the chat. They saw what was going on. People were not happy. So they're going to course correct, and we are going to see gameplay. As a matter of fact, I would imagine that I can't say for sure we're going to see 18 minutes of gameplay, but we're definitely going to get to see what the $500 million investment in the Slipspace engine looks like. We're going to get to see Master Chief shoot a bunch of elites, possibly, and we may even see a mission, the opening of a mission or something, but we're not going to get a CG cutscene and they're going to go to black. That's not going to happen. And you can thank Sony kind of role reversing and forcing the envelope, right? Like Mr. Badbit was saying, but this is what I'm expecting is something that we all have been anticipating since Halo Infinite was announced. We're going to actually see gameplay running on the Series X. They need to do that. I expect they're going to do that. Is there anything else you'd like to add to your amazing conversation?
No, I mean what you kind of said is definitely true, and to kind of somewhat take it a little bit further of what you were kind of saying, or what I guess Badbit was kind of saying is that all these companies have made mistakes, and you learn off of your mistakes. And 343 has made mistakes in the past, and yes, they have undoubtedly, hopefully, learned from those mistakes. I just think it's very, very crucial to spend ample amount of time on this and really show off Halo, because Halo is their flagship title. And so far, I mean, we've gotten, a trailer showing, a warthog driving, on a Halo ring and just really, showing, wasn't there like dinosaurs or something like it showed as well? I think, I don't know. And then we got the
vegetation and stuff. Sure.
Yeah. And then we got the absolutely amazing, E3 cinematic trailer. But beyond that, we haven't gotten anything. And this game, if it stays scheduled, it's set to release, here in 5 months, right? So I really, really, really want to make sure. I really want to see them put in a lot of time into I was about to say Fable, into Halo.
Yes, Fable. Yes. Well, listen, dude. Again, fantastic points, Luke. I want to bring you back next into the conversation because you and Mr. Badbit have been really going to town on Halo, and obviously your excitement for the one of the major franchises for the Xbox platform as a whole, kid, it must be through the roof. Now, look, I'll say this. This article that I pulled from Games Radar states that it is we have confirmation from 343 Industries that they explicitly said that Halo is going to be shown at this event and that there will be gameplay. This is coming directly from 343. So any thoughts or theories as to them not showing it or potentially somehow making a boo-boo is not going to happen. But being an Xbox fan since of the original OG back in 2001, the Halo franchise has been one of the top selling. As a matter of fact, one of 4 from Microsoft that have crossed the $1 billion club. My question to you is, what are you're an excitable kind of a podcaster. You're an excitable Halo fan. So obviously, and I'll say it again, your expectations must be through the roof. But when you hear finally from 343 themselves and they make that short and sweet statement, but they say get ready, I have to agree with Zemi. It sounds like they're beaming with confidence. What are your thoughts on the usually quiet but now outspoken 343 Industries?
Confidence is just confidence grows every time I see and hear something from them and this brand in the wake of Halo 5. We just did the playthrough of all the campaigns, and so we got a really good retrospective as to where Halo began, how it's evolved, what the magic is of Halo. 343 crafted an incredible narrative in Halo 4. Feel free to weigh in at any point, but when we were playing Halo 4, it was just stunning and jaw-dropping that ran on a 360 and was so incredible, and the story was quite good. We really
the story was excellent. Story was excellent in 4, yes.
And they had the right amount of new with old, and it felt like a Halo game. It still had the magic of Halo and yet incorporated modern elements to it. And in playing 5, we noticed too many Prometheans. The music was really off, and something didn't feel Halo about it. And we often forget. We look to the great Halos of yore, and we think of Halos 1, 2, and 3 often. But realistically, going back mechanically, it's Halo 4 and Reach that are top tier. And 343 had a hand in one of those, meaning they understand the magic there. Since Halo 5, we've seen Halo Wars 2 come out, and that game got a lot of post-launch love. The Blur cinematics were incredible, and the gameplay in Halo Wars 2 is great for a strategy game on a console. They put out Halo 2 Anniversary, which is also did very well. That was fun to play. The Master Chief Collection's seen a huge restructure, which has been shown a lot of love. It was never built for PC. It was already hack job together on console, and they've continued to rebuild it. The PC, I think, is still stumbling there a bit, but they're doing it in stages, which I like. And the comics and the novels are all still coming out. If Infinite is a soft reboot, I would have expected them to wipe the narrative Disney style, and they didn't, meaning that they are confident in what it is they're doing and crafting something special for gamers to go through. I will never forget a Game Informer article that I read long ago in a time when Halo was at its peak, just before Modern Warfare came out. This was Call of Duty 4. And the creators at Infinity War were asked if they're worried about going toe-to-toe with Halo. And they responded, no, not even a little. I actually get that same type of vibe, not necessarily the arrogance, because they would not say that now because they're a first party studio, but I feel that there's a confidence with 343 and the way they are working with the Halo narrative, soft reboot, Slipspace engine, new launch, the novels they're putting out all tie into Master Chief specifically. The ending of Halo Wars 2 sets up a narrative that allows them to distance themselves from the frustration of Halo 5's narrative, and they're building something that I would have expected them to fully reboot, and there's a confidence there. We saw at the last Inside Xbox, Aaron Greenberg said, all right, Halo will be here soon, and then we find out it's going to be July. Definitely, they will be informed by Ghost of Tsushima's state of play. They will be informed by the fact that they need to sell a console.
Yes,
and they will probably have to ride the success or failure of Infinite for longer than they would have expected due to COVID-19, due to the fact they can't use mocap for newer games. They're going to need Halo to do well, and they've got 10 million on Game Pass that'll have access to it. It'll be cross-gen. They're going to have to market well and market on TV. They're going to have to market in game spaces. They're going to need Ninja and mixers and Twitch streamers to all play this stuff. They've got to really go all out and make or break it. I'm excited for what 343 is doing. We know they can make multiplayer. Halo 5's multiplayer is great. We know they can make a narrative. Halo 4's narrative is great. They've got to put it all together and have the magic.
Put those two together, make a add some $500 million investment into that, and I think what we're going to have is the return of Master Chief. But more importantly, I think we're going to have the return of the King. And I think that the Halo, listen, folks, I don't have any real ginormous connections. No one from Microsoft is going to fly me to Redmond and let me see Halo behind the scenes. But if they're listening and you'd like someone to do that, please send me the plane ticket because I'll go. But I'm going to say this, and if I'm wrong, I'd be the first one to admit it. But I honestly, in my heart of hearts, believe that we are going to not only be completely blown away and amazed by the console coming this fall, but I think that we are going to see and joyfully see the return of what made Halo great. And it's going to be such a great combination to see a new console with power and all these capabilities and have Master Chief in tow. It's going to be a great day for gamers. I don't care if you're an Xbox gamer. I think that you'll even have to, even if you're, PlayStation specifically, I think you're going to have to tip your cap to what 343 Industries is going to be bringing to the table. That is how much confidence I have in that team, and I cannot wait to play it. Real quick, let me catch up on some of these super chats. This one's a little weird, folks, so get ready. Beaner8127 drops an outstanding and very generous $5 super chat and says this: poop, poopy, poo poo. I just wanted to hear Boom read that live on the air. Great show as always. Of course, no problem, dude. It's the least
that brought a tear to my eyes, guys.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Once again, he drops an additional and very generous $5 super chat from Beaner8127 and says this: E3 2019, which I was there, folks, was supposed to be monumental according to Xbox. I'm expecting the same thing in July unless proven otherwise, but still excited for Series X. You know what, dude? Listen to me. I hear you, and I completely understand your point of view. And you know something? You have every freaking right to feel like that, because guess what? Microsoft has somewhat let us down to some extent. And there's been plenty of E3s where we keep hearing, wait till next E3, we held some stuff back. Well, all of the holding back that we've heard Phil Spencer and company talk about is coming to an end. And I think, look, again, I could be 1,000% wrong, dude, but I am going to tell you that when the July event happens, I think that they are going to do something during that July event that is going to completely change many non-Xbox players' minds with what we're going to see. And if they bring to the table Halo Infinite gameplay, they bring to the table Fable. They bring Perfect Dark. They bring Forza Motorsport 8. They show us a whole bunch of other things. We get a chance to see what Double Fine is working on. We get a chance to see what Compulsion Games is working on. We get to hear about Obsidian's, Skyrim-esque AAA game. We are going to be in gamers' heaven, and I think they know that they have to really bring the heat, and I believe they're going to not only bring it, but they're going to bring it in spades. And let me just catch up with another super chat, and then we're going to get over to the next. We'll bring Mr. Badbit into the conversation. And Smitty Smith, my God, dude, thank you so much for your outstanding generosity. He sends another $5 super chat my way and says this. Do you think, this is a great question. Do you think the July event should be pre-recorded or streamed? And I'm going to tell you this without a blink of an eye. It should be 1,000% pre-recorded.
Agree.
Pre-record it, put out high-res versions, screenshots, GIFs, whatever. High-res everything. Got to.
Well,
Real talk.
Pre-recorded is going to give you so much more control over what's happening versus
more control, less compression, and this will bleed into what you were talking about earlier, Boom. You will know everything if they say this is streamed or this is pre-recorded, because I think one of the things that Sony has done right with like the Ghost of Tsushima State of Play and God, what was the other one? It's been so long, right? Sony doesn't talk to me anymore, but is the fact that it was just like
they only talk to you when you're not doing a show live. After you've done your live show, they talk to you. It's you have to
God, Sony, come on, pick a day to release all your information. You know what I mean? Everybody, click on Trophy Room, latest episode. It's gonna need your help. But anyway, you'll see if they learned their lesson. This needs to be pre-recorded straight up front. If it's 100%. Not, I'm a little bit bummed out at that point, because then we're gonna have the same situation we had with Inside Xbox. This also does need to be a little bit more tight-knit.
Can I say less cringy?
Yeah, we don't need Aaron Greenberg's fake enthusiasm. I don't need that. Just give me game. Now, what?
I thought we were high. I thought some of us we gave it C's to A's in our when we talked about it. Are we not high on any? Did it age poorly? I mean, I'm being serious. Did it after processing? I'm gonna be honest.
If I could redo my grade, I would give it an A-.
Wow.
Oh, strong. That's even.
I would. I wanted to give it an A- then, but I wasn't sure. Like I didn't know if I should give it a grade like that high. Yeah. But honestly, to me, you guys kind of swayed me over to B+.
That's right. B+. That's right. No, to me, I think it's still a C. It's a stale C. It's like, okay, you saw what you did there. It's kind of like when the teacher pulls you aside. You're like, I know what you're doing. Okay, it's not gonna work here. All right. Get your shit together. I call your parents. Like that's what it kind of. So it like parents are called. Give me a pre-recording. I don't want stream. I don't. Give me, and I want to break down a Halo. Halo is going to be, I really do feel like the July event is what they said. They stated at the end of Inside Xbox. It's going to be Halo, and I think we're going to see Fable. And I think we're going to see very few other things. I think tops 3 other games come along with that.
You know what? Let me pose a question to you, Mr. Bad.
Please go for it.
Now, after experiencing what Sucker Punch did on the Sony State of Play with the 18-minute gorgeous, unbelievable footage
that's what they need to do.
That was actually going to be my question to you.
I'm sorry.
What? No, that's okay. What? As someone who is a diehard, folks, we have to understand the levity of this. He just played with Luke through the entire Halo series. Okay, and you can add Halo Wars 2 to that. So this is coming from someone that he has a PlayStation podcast, but he obviously likes the lore, the Master Chief, and everything that comes with Halo. So this is why I'm interested to hear your answer on this.
Yeah, no,
I you want to see the presentation. What are you demanding that 343 bring to the table in this July event?
So I'm going to say some things that are extremely popular and maybe some things that are extremely controversial. So first and foremost, I want my dream is we pop the HUD on and Cortana speaks to you. She's like, "Hey, Chief, what's up?" Like something like that. Like that's the return of normacy that I need. I did not like any. Halo 5 is
it's an abomination. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. It's I don't like it. Nothing's almost redeemable there. Luke, is there anything redeemable? I don't know.
The mechanics were all really good, and it just lacked soul. And like we were on levels. We played like there's a Swords of San Helios level that looked gorgeous, and we were oftentimes we would say to each other because we had just come off of 4, I think.
Yeah.
And we would say, this game is so technically good and yet no fun. It was not fun. The revive was not fun. Like I want to mantle again. That's what I want. I liked mantling, but even go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, how dare you, fake fan? Only you would know this Swords of St. Helios. But like for me, I need that return to normalcy. I need to see single player is great. I also want to see another section of multiplayer, but something like get brass tacks this, like run me through the first level of like what you've done differently, what you've learned, the ins and outs of this game, kind of like how Sucker Punch did, where then you see the lower thirds kind of fill in the blanks of what the developers are saying, or just the bullet points of what you're seeing on screen. That's what I need. And then when we see the multiplayer, I'm come on, Phil. I'm hoping, I'm praying here. All right. That they're like, and you get to, we want to grow this game with you. Like take it like Phil's doing the journey with Xbox. We want to make sure we get this right at launch. That's why we're giving the beta right now, so you can experience a taste of
that would be
Halo
a freaking amazing, awesome. Dude. Yes.
And I think to bring in the casuals, whether this is a launch or this is a window or whatever, Halo does need fresh blood. That's the biggest problem with the franchise. It's not bringing in new people. I really do think there needs to be a free-to-play-ish mode. I really do think that there needs to be.
I know that may be taboo to a lot of people, and people don't want to say, please, God, no,
no battle royale.
No battle royale, but you know something? Here's the thing. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Battle Royale, not for me. Not even remotely. I mean, I'll try it, sure. Just not my bag.
Yeah.
But you know who bag it is? The youngins.
Exactly.
It's the youngin bags. And if you can get some sort of a free-to-play thing with Spartans running around and collecting sniper rifles and rocket launchers and energy swords, you might be onto something. And if you can get them to play that, you might be able to get them to be invested in Halo Infinite. It's a fantastic strategy.
If Warzone has taught us anything, Call of Duty Warzone has taught us anything, is adding a battle royale does not diminish what us, the hardcore, think the main game is. You know, the fact of the matter is Halo does need to find a way to compete against the Sieges, the Fortnites. It has to compete with, the games that are taking up a lot of the space, the Destinies as well of the world. It needs to compete on that stage where I feel like ever since the 360 era, Microsoft's tried, but it hasn't got that mainstream traction it once had. I think adding some more modern quote unquote modes or putting new spins on it is the right way to go forward with Halo. I just, as much as it might hurt some of the hardcore's feelings, and that's why I think this presentation is so important for Microsoft to make sure that they're nailing right, is that it's giving something for everyone. Again, Halo Infinite is going to be walking a tight rope. A lot of things are riding on this game, and the one thing that I'll end here is
I want to add one thing too.
It's Doom moment. It needs to figure out, what Doom 2016 did for Eternal and going forward.
Great analogy, dude. Fantastic.
They nailed down what a Doom game looks like modern day. what is the soul of a Doom game, right? It's high octane action, it is metal, it is gore. What is Halo? And that's those are the three questions. Is what is the soul of Halo? What makes Halo tick? We know 343 can do this. We know, we've seen it. Halo 4 is so freaking good, and Halo 5's multiplayer has gotten significantly well.
Yes.
So it can happen. Luke, you wanted to chime in, fake fan, Halo fan.
Yeah, all those books on my shelf, all the posters, yeah, whatever. And so you mentioned the hardcore, and they might need to branch away from some of the hardcore Halo fans. And you're right, and I think that's really hard for a lot of people, because if the hardcore could have kept Halo going, it would have, and that sucks. It hurts for me, because obviously, like, we love Halo, but it did not sell. And Boom is right when he says the youngins, it does need some mass appeal. And there's got to be a way to do that. They tried to make it very similar to Call of Duty with ADSing and stuff in 5, and it didn't have the soul. So they have to have the Force Awakens. To put another analogy, they need a Force Awakens where it captures the spirit of old and brings in new. Mm-hmm. And that's, again, there's that tightrope we're talking about, and that's the.
Just still make the Master Chief a Mary Sue that gets away with everything because of the Force.
Well, let's certainly not hope not. But you know what,
John 117 Skywalker.
Oh no, don't say it.
I like that ending, Luke. I like that ending.
You know what? Let's bring Archimedes in. He's been sitting there patiently. Archimedes, look, there are a lot of things that people that the panel has talked about leading up to you taking the mic, and they have a tremendous amount of great points. And I think that what excites me is the simple but yet very powerful statement from 343. Now I don't have a name to go with it. That was a statement, and this is what I love about it. This is why I think that there is some real oomph to this statement, because this is not coming from one person where it could be their opinion. This is coming from the entire team saying, you know what, get ready. And I know that it's simple, and I know that maybe we might be going a little overboard. I don't think so, simply because we haven't heard much from that team in regards to talking about the upcoming game. What are your thoughts on it, and what are you expecting for July?
Well, first, let me tell you, after all these fantastic points, I'm happy that I have 1 or 2 points left I can add.
Yes.
There, because first, before I say what I want to see in July, let me touch on the whole Halo needs to do something new. This is 110% right, because if you think about what made Halo so famous, Halo is the Mario for Microsoft, and what made it this brand-defining franchise. It was the first shooter on a console that actually played as good as you would play it on a PC. Yeah. Of course, there have been shooters on consoles before, GoldenEye, for instance, and Perfect Dark, and shooters like that, but they never felt really at home on the console. And Halo, the first 2 Halos on the original Xbox, they delivered exactly that feeling. A butter-smooth shooter on a console, a great universe, a shooter that tells a fantastic story. This was new to consoles and console gamers, and ever since, the whole shooter genre on consoles has exploded. We have so many fantastic shooters out there that cover everything, from the fast-paced Doom shooters, more stealthy shooters like Metro. You have everything out there, and now Halo really has the challenge to find that niche. What makes them unique? What makes all those Call of Duty players not pick up Call of Duty but go into Halo multiplayer? And this is really a tough challenge, and I'm looking forward to see how they will handle that. Because it is their brand-defining franchise. This Gears and, well, Forza, as much as I love Forza, I don't think a racing game has the same impact like an IP like Halo. Yeah. So the importance is I think Microsoft is aware of how important that is, and that is why they made that huge investment of 500 millions in the new engine. And I don't know what the game will cost with marketing and everything. So they made a huge investment, and this is something you don't do if you don't have a well laid out plan on what the franchise will be in the next generation. Yeah. So what do I expect to see in July? Ghost of Tsushima in 5 to 10 minutes. I don't think they can afford to spend more than 5 to 10 minutes in that July show, because they have to show a lot of other stuff as well. They have to take that page out of Sony's playbook and lay out their first-party content for the next 2 to 3 years. This is what they need to do. So they can't afford to spend 20 minutes on, or 30 minutes or whatever on Halo. They need to do something else with that July event. They need to take 5 to 10 minutes, make a really brief introduction to gameplay. What is new to Halo? How did they change the game? Maybe they add open world segments, RPG elements, mention stuff like that, show a little gameplay, and then announce a beta. You have to give Halo in the hands of the players.
Yes, I agree. The beta is going to be very important for sure. And you know what? Maybe it won't be made available that day, but they definitely got to give us a date. Like, hey, get ready to experience Halo Infinite on day X before it launches. I agree. That's a great point.
And then you don't need a 20-minute gameplay demo during that show. Yeah, you can take the time and focus on all the other studios you have, and just let the game speak for itself by giving it into the hands of the gamers. Yeah, and I don't think it is that unrealistic, because if you think about the timeline here, we're talking about July. Now, we don't know when the console, and with the console Halo will launch. Probably November is everyone talking. Yeah, I still think it will be October. Microsoft is so full of surprises lately that I think they will try to be the first on the market. And if it's only for 2 or 3 weeks, so they will probably target mid or end of October. But anyway, this is about 3 to 4 months before the launch of the game. It's a perfect time to get your servers ready, to put out that beta, and give people something to play over the summer break. During summer, typically July, August, we don't have any major game releases. It's the perfect time. You have full spotlight on the beta of your biggest IP. And this is what I am hoping that Microsoft does with Halo. And then take the rest of the time in the July event to really show what is the initiative working on, Obsidian, Playground, etc., etc. Microsoft has to bring a little bit more to the table than Sony to gain the mind share again. This is just how it is at the moment. Everyone trusts Sony to deliver the big AAA IPs, yeah. And Microsoft has to regain that trust that they are able to deliver those big AAA blockbuster games. I have no doubt that they will deliver it, but they have to show it. And that's why they can't spend too much time on one IP like Halo.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, listen, I'm going to say this show has got to be 90 minutes. I'm going to be honest with you. I think anything short of that, you're pushing the envelope for potentially not giving enough space. Halo, I know you say 5 to 10 minutes. I'm going to be honest with you. I think that because Halo means so much to the brand, when you think of Xbox, you think of Halo. When you think of Halo, you think of Xbox. I think that at the minimum, we got to get 15 minutes of coverage. I believe anything more than that will be pushing it, but I think 15 minutes would be just enough to give us gameplay, show some different cutscenes, maybe get one of the developers to talk a narrative type of style, explaining the scene we're going to see, very, very similar to Ghost of Tsushima. To take what they saw with that and run with it. I think that Halo needs to have a good showing. We need to see gameplay. We need to see some sort of an open trailer, and it's got to close. It's got to close on a bit of a cliffhanger. It's got to get people saying, "Holy shit! What just happened? I'm going to watch this another 100 times." That's what they need to do, and I believe they are going to deliver it. But I want to move on to the next topic because we're already 90 minutes into today's show. But I have to catch up on some of the super chats. First of all, Crazy Mate Gaming, hey dude, thank you so much for being here. He drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says this year is great for games. I'm so excited for the new year of content for Civ 6 starting today, and I'm incredibly excited. Yeah, dude, there's a lot to be excited about, regardless of what console you play in, or if you play on all three, then there's a lot to be excited about. Y9 Power drops an outstanding and very generous $2 super chat and says this: what's your favorite gaming food? Me, it's pizza and wine. You know what, dude? I can have pizza, though I don't drink. I'll take a ginger ale or a Dr. Pepper, but I do love myself some pizza, which is why I'm always making it and posting those pictures on Twitter for everyone to salivate over. A good friend of the show, Thanaros, hey dude, thanks so much for being here. He drops a $5 super chat and says this: 343 is screwed if they change too much. Oh man, I just lost it. Hold on a sec. Where are you?
I got it, Boom. If you need
I got it. He says if they change too much, the old school fans will hate it. If they keep everything the same, new fans will think it's too dated. It is like it is a fine line that they're walking, but I think that they can bring both to the table and do it well. Smitty Smith drops an additional $5 super chat, and he says this. A $2 super chat and says almost 700 people today. Fly, boom, fly. Yes, we were at 690. We almost hit 700. That is a really big deal for a very small show. Thank you so much for everyone tuning into this. And if you are here, you are enjoying the banter, tap that like button. Trust me when I tell you, it will not. You won't lose any money, and you will certainly not be injured by tapping the thumbs up button. Regulator 951 drops an outstanding $5 super chat. Thank you for being here, but thank you for your generosity. He says Sony fans incredible SSD that they'll brag about most likely won't see in third-party games. More likely first-party. Great show, Boom and panel. Yeah, I agree. I think that their first party studios will take full advantage of the SSD's capabilities, and that's just to be expected. You can see the same thing with Nintendo taking advantage of their first party, and then you're going to see the same thing for Microsoft as well. Philly Eagle, hey brother, thanks for being here. He drops a $5 super chat and he says this: I disagree on the point about Sony games. Sony has more disappointing first party than hits for me. With that being said, neither console is better. I mean, I listen again. Not every game is for every gamer, and I think that if there are a lot of people that don't like the single player experience, the story driven, adult themed, over the shoulder game that's typical of a Sony release. And you know something, I hear you, but that particular play style, that particular view, that vertical slice of gameplay that some people will have a distaste for, I absolutely love from start to finish. But again, not every game is for every gamer. But I want to go up to the next article. I mean, well, not the next article, but the next topic. And this is probably going to be the last topic of the day. I didn't realize we were going to be so long on the first one, but it's perfectly fine because I will bring back the other ones that I had written on next week's show. There are no particular timelines in their original written content, but I want to talk about InExile Entertainment. And in my opinion, again, this is just my opinion, they're one of three of Microsoft's first parties that no one is really talking about. And in that conversation, which, we're going to come back to it another time because we're going to be talking about InExile specifically, are Compulsion Games and Double Fine. And in an article that just dropped from Xbox, InExile apparently has a huge unannounced project for the Xbox Series X, and apparently there is a lot to be excited about. Now, besides Xbox Mew running this very interesting story, community good guy known as Clobriel posted recently on his official Twitter account. And here's what Clobriel had to say regarding InExile. He says this: InExile is looking for a senior producer to join the team on an exciting, unannounced AAA next-gen project. And you know what? They confirmed right after he tweeted that they found said person, but they are in fact hiring for a AAA game that has been unannounced that will be talked about very, very soon. And the person they were looking for will apparently they wanted them to be experienced in large AAA teams and to be able to distribute and remote development, and also that they were looking for be able to drive delivery of a polished, highly rated game on time and of course on budget. Now, according to the article, this project is going to be huge and it's going to be AAA from start to finish, and the quality is supposed to be next level. Now, again, InExile is someone that Microsoft recently added to their, Xbox game studios. But you know what? While I had this written topic is about a week and a half, maybe even 2 weeks old. It's one of them I never got around to. But what's interesting is just the other day, more information popped up regarding InExile, so I merged the two for today's show. Now, they had something interesting to say regarding the use of the Unreal Engine 5, and this is what InExile had to say officially. We have had quite a few questions about our next gen RPG, and can confirm today that it will in fact use the Unreal Engine 5. And they say, thank you. We are excited to share more, although it'll be a while because we're focusing on finishing Wasteland 3, which releases soon, and getting that into people's hands on August 28th. We will indeed be using the Unreal Engine 5 for our next project, and we cannot wait to give you more information. Now, listen, I'm getting goosebumps because, quite frankly, I think that this is one of the dark horses, if you will, of the three that I mentioned. And I think that, maybe, Wasteland 3 may not be everyone's bag. You know what I'm saying? Though I think that the variety of what they're bringing to Xbox Game Pass and their studios is tremendous. Zemi, I want to go to you on this. When you hear that not only do we have Wasteland 3 coming, which by the way, they put a ton of new monies into that game, making it really an unbelievable experience, and I cannot wait to play it. But when you hear that not only are they looking to bring in new talent that understands big AAA development, but that they have confirmed that Unreal Engine 5 will be used, what are your thoughts on the potential of the next project from InExile?
Well, I guess first starting with the Unreal Engine statement, I mean, it's, it is kind of, I guess, shocking to hear that that's the engine that they're using. But not really. I mean, because there for a while you had all these different people saying that, like Xbox wouldn't be able to use Unreal Engine 5. And it just like blows my mind, the stupidity of that statement. Like Gears of War has used the Unreal Engine since like the very beginning, right? And, last year, Xbox came out with a game called Gears of War 5, used Unreal, 4. And this year, they came out with Gears Tactics, which also uses Unreal. And Unreal is one of those engines that Epic just doesn't give, but allows, third-party, just developers all around the world access to use, and they make money off of that. So why would Epic make it where Xbox couldn't use the Unreal 5 engine?
Again, it's ridiculous.
It makes no sense. It's just stupid.
May I jump in here real quickly?
Yeah.
Because I've posted this on Twitter, and I said it in one of my videos. The biggest customer for Unreal Engine is Microsoft. I only know one PlayStation studio who uses the Unreal Engine, and that is Ben's studio for Days Gone. But we have many studios from Microsoft using it. you just mentioned the Coalition, but we also know Playground is using it. We know Ninja Theory is using it. Compulsion is using it. Now InExile is using it. So I have no idea if there is another publisher out there who uses Unreal Engine in so many games like Microsoft.
You know, I want to add to this, and I'll let you continue, Zemi. Just for confirmation, folks. If you did not know, 9 studios out of the 15, use Unreal Engine and will in fact have been confirmed to be using Unreal Engine 5. Listen to what I'm saying. 9 out of the 15 studios will be using that Unreal Engine 5. Understand how important it is to Microsoft.
And just a few weeks ago, there was a big statement from Microsoft coming that they have heavily invested in that Houdini add-on. And this is, I did some research what that actually is, and it is an add-on to the Unreal Engine that allows developers to share technology and assets within Unreal Engine in between different games, studios, and genres.
That's awesome.
They made a huge investment in a technology to be able to share Unreal Engine technology in between their studios. So I guess they will use that engine very heavily next gen, and we will see some of the best implementations coming out of Microsoft Studios of the Unreal Engine.
Yeah. I mean, and just to add to that, just to add to the stupidity of the statement that like the Xbox Series X wouldn't be able to use the Unreal 5 engine, so many third-party companies use the Unreal Engine. And so if that statement was true, all of those third-party companies wouldn't be able to use the Unreal 5 engine because they couldn't sell their games on Xbox. Thus, they would be losing tons of money. So it just, the statement makes no sense because Epic would lose out on so much money. But anyway, beyond that, back onto InExile and what they're making, I'm not really the most excited for Wasteland 3. I'm just not really a big fan of like the top-down POV. But with that being said, with them making a new game, that actually really has me excited. And one of the biggest wishes that I really hope from, InExile's next game is I really kind of hope that it is a more, I guess, like to me, what would be like a more traditional RPG, being first person or third person over the shoulder kind of look. I would actually really, really like that just because I'm not the biggest fan of the top down POV, but I know a lot of people are. And I love the futuristic genre. I would love it if they made like a Mass Effect like RPG. Like I would absolutely fall in love with that. I did not get my craving fixed with the Outer Worlds. I absolutely enjoyed that game. It was fantastic all the way through, but I want more. I want more of that futuristic RPG setting, and so like I would love to see InExile do something with that type of setting, being futuristic and third person, first person kind of stuff. But yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, whatever they're going to be working on, it is going to be AAA and it's going to be big.
Yeah.
When that's going to release, well, heck, I don't know. But I can tell you this: if you look at what one of the, I guess you can say, wants or complaints from many of the Xbox community is that they haven't had enough original RPGs. Mm-hmm. And if you look at what they have now, with InExile, with Obsidian. And, they're going to be having RPGs, at least Western style RPGs coming. And, at least for the foreseeable future, there's a lot to be excited about. You know what, Luke, let's move on to you over here, dude. This obviously, this article, it wasn't intended to be the biggest one of the bunch, but hearing that InExile is hiring for a big time AAA project, it excites me because they were a talented team, and obviously with Wasteland 3, it seemed to being that you personally, you and Mr. Badbit enjoyed Halo Wars, there could be potential that you might be interested in playing Wasteland 3. What are your thoughts on both Wasteland 3 and the potential of what they could bring to the table on a new AAA project?
In many ways, it reminds me of Obsidian in that Obsidian had the Outer Worlds releasing multi-platform, as is Wasteland 3, because of when they were purchased. And that I think built clout for Obsidian, which will help them sell their next games, whether they are big or small. Now, Grounded may hurt them a little bit, but it may not. And I'm not knocking it. It's just a fundamentally different philosophy shift.
From them specifically, it's much different than what we're normally used to.
Right. I think it makes perfect sense that a studio is purchased by Microsoft, gets funding, and then ramps up production for Microsoft systems on a higher level. That makes perfect sense as well. They probably, in their pitch, where Microsoft probably said, "Hey, what is it you want to do? We'll fund X." We've seen Ninja Theory got that with Bleeding Edge. We saw Grounded is happening for Obsidian. We know that that's a part of their philosophy, saying, "Hey, what is it you want to make? Make that for us, and we'll fund bigger projects down the line." So I think it makes perfect sense. I'm excited about it. As far as Wasteland 3, the game looks cool. I've never been into Wasteland games, but 1 and 2 were very different from each other and are looking to add to it. It was concerning at the time that they were purchased for some that Obsidian and InExile had history with each other, and they both made similar RPG type games. That was the idea, RPG strategy-esque type stuff, if my memory serves. But when you examine it, take 2 seconds to look at it, they're not the same at all. No. And so there's an excitement for me around the idea that they're funding creative things like the smaller stuff, but also pushing the bigger. I hoped, and I'm curious to see how important it is to Series X to show off that system power. Are we looking at stuff that's going to be AAA on PC? Because that is their bread and butter. Is it console specific? There's so many questions around what their next project could be that they could tell me lots of things right now, and there's so much time for it to change. So be it. But Wasteland 3 could help put them on the map a little bit, just the way that Outer Worlds did with Obsidian, and then their next projects will gain that much more attention going forward.
I mean, that's the truth. That's absolutely the truth, and well said. You know what? Let's bring Archimedes into the conversation here as well. One of the at least for me, my excitement levels with InExile, which a lot of people are discounting. Again, it's not the flashy studio, right? It's not, the quadruple A studio. So like Compulsion Games and like Double Fine, a lot of people are discounting what they're going to bring to the table. And you know what? That's good. That's good because people's expectations are going to be low. And when they deliver on something huge, people are like, holy shit, I'm putting them right next to Ninja Theory and Obsidian. And I think that's what's going to wind up happening. Now, again, granted, maybe Wasteland 3 isn't going to be the game that everyone plays because like a lot of people already on the panel said, it may not be their bag. And that's fine. And again, not every game is for every gamer. But to know that they are working on a AAA game, that they have the funding and backing of Microsoft to make this AAA game happen is great. But to know the confirmation that they're working with the Unreal Engine 5 excites me even more. What are your thoughts and what are your expectations from InExile?
Oh, I think you basically covered the most important thing. Many sleep on InExile, but they have great potential to deliver fantastic RPGs. If you look at their track record, they have delivered amazing RPGs that always lacked basically of budget. And I think this problem is out of the way now. And they are a very talented studio. And I don't think anyone should sleep on InExile. If you think about it, Microsoft has now a lot of studios making RPGs. They have more RPGs now than shooters. With Obsidian, Playground, InExile, etc. They have a lot of RPGs on their system, and this is something I really appreciate because I'm a huge RPG fan, and I'm hoping that InExile goes to make a Diablo kind of action RPG, awesome. A dungeon crawler action RPG. This is what if you think about what the Xbox Game Studios are standing for, they are all about diversity. Yeah, we have basically every genre we have in the studios. We have real-time strategy, racing games, first-person, third-person shooters. We will have action adventures from the initiative. We have RPGs, different RPGs, Obsidian, Skyrim-like RPG, a open world RPG, Fable coming from Playground, and this is a genre that is basically missing. Yes, we are getting Minecraft dungeons right now, but this is a niche I think that is missing in the portfolio of the Xbox Game Studios, and I think they have the potential to deliver really big in this spot. And them using also the Unreal Engine 5 and confirming that they consider the next project a AAA project means that there is a lot of funding behind it. And InExile isn't a small studio. I think if I remember correctly,
they have 3 teams.
Yeah, they have above 200 people there. So it's not a small studio. And I think nobody should sleep on those guys. They have great talent in their studio, and that project that they teased now, this AAA project, was the reason Microsoft bought them. So there must be something behind it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I am going to say that when Microsoft was at their studio, it was this unannounced project that it was one of the main reasons why they were like, listen, we got to sign these dudes, we got to get them to be a part of of this rebuilding structure, because whatever they're working on excited Microsoft to buy them. And that's a big deal. It wasn't their current project. It's the same thing with Obsidian. People don't understand that it wasn't the Outer Worlds. Outer Worlds is probably one of the best RPGs to come out last year. In fact, it might be one of the best RPGs to come out in the last 5 or 10 years, to be honest with you.
Agreed.
But it wasn't that RPG that got Microsoft excited. It was what they were working on that they haven't announced yet, which we're potentially going to see in the July event, which gets me super excited, because when you say RPG, when you say Obsidian and you say Skyrim together, I get goosebumps because of the potential. Mr. Badbit, let's bring you in to close out today's outstanding show, but I just have to catch up on a super chat. It's Starlord 14 drops a very generous $10 super chat and says this: love your channel and panel, Boom. Well, thanks, dude. Super appreciate that. Thank you. Well, no, actually, I say thank you for being here. He says, where's So Shady? And I believe that Lethal Popper answered that. He says this also: Xbox needs a Mechasalt Crimson Mechasalt, yes. Crimson Skies, check please, absolutely. And a car battle arena Twisted Metal. And how about a game like Simpsons Hit and Run? Well, I'm going to say this: I wasn't a big fan of Hit and Run for the Simpsons, but I am going to say that I'm a huge fan of a Mechasalt. And Phil Spencer said, when asked if there was one IP to bring back, what would it be? He said Mechasalt, and I love that idea. But Crimson Skies is still a fantastic game and backwards compatible with some upgrades. It looks absolutely fantastic playing on the X. That was a fantastic title that no one remembers. But Mr. Badbit, let's close out the show on a strong note here.
Right.
When you hear a smaller, and we say smaller, not in scope and size, because 200 people anywhere is a big team. Yeah. But you know what? At notoriety, a lot of people don't know who InExile is, and I think they're going to with this big AAA game that's going to be coming out next. And the fact that that game is going to be using the Unreal Engine 5 should excite people even more. What are your thoughts on this? And should people discount this not very known team? What are your thoughts on this?
So correct me if I'm wrong, guys, in the chat and in here. I think InExile started because of the Kickstarter to the original Wasteland, if I'm not mistaken. Right. So this team has grassroots, has a strong, not to say indie, but sure.
I know that a lot of the people that went to InExile came from the studio that originally created Fallout and created Fallout 1, Fallout 2.
Isn't that cool as shit?
And a lot of those developers went to Obsidian as well. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, how dare you? But so right then and there, they have a small grassroots movement. They're not to say they're the big on PC, but they're known primarily for PC. So to see them not branch off because they have already, but stake their claim in the consoles the way that they have with partnering or being bought out by Microsoft is awesome. It also seems like to me a great way. It's a multiple of things. Great way to promote your game that's coming out in August, right? By taking advantage of a headline that is being thrown about. It also seems like it's kind of like Microsoft, like Phil Spencer's like, hey guys, listen, no one's believing me about the whole Unreal Engine 5 thing. Could you guys say you're using it? And they're like, yeah, sure. So it's kind of Microsoft's way of doubling down of course, Unreal Engine 5 is being used by Microsoft. Of course it can run it. Of course, all these things. And at the same exact time, InExile gets a nice little PR bump for a couple of days. So I'm excited to see what they do. They're not particularly for me. I would, you guys said like an isometric like RPG, the style of Diablo, that gets my rocks off. I want to see that game. That game from them would be fantastic. But I'd like to see them go out there, do something different, be different of a studio, not just be known for doing that one thing. So I'm excited. Yeah.
Who's the old guy in Diablo 3?
Deckard Cain from Diablo.
Yeah, that guy.
Him.
Yeah,
And his granddaughter Leia.
Oh my god, you do sound like
Minecraft Dungeons like Diablo. Isn't that kind of like Xbox's version?
Don't you dare insult me like that. Minecraft has no power here. Anyway, so I'm excited to see what Wastelands does or InExile does with the tech. I'm just excited to see games, man. This is it. This is we're about to enter June. We're about to enter July, and we can stop the talk of teraflips, teraskips. We can stop the talk of the triangles and how many of them are. I don't know. And light bounces off of these triangles. That okay.
Hard drives,
SSDs, STDs. Like I'm done with it.
We don't want any of those. That is for sure. But
you don't,
unless you're playing Fable, then you want to try to collect them all like Pokemon.
and there's an antibiotic clean right up, guys.
I love it.
Exactly.
Well, on that note, first of all,
Yeah, let's end it on that.
I have to. I want to thank everybody for being here. First of all, we just missed the 700 mark by 10 viewers. We got up to 690, which is absolutely incredible. I cannot thank everybody enough for tuning in to this small but extremely growing Xbox podcast. I hope that we bring you fun and positivity and excitement on your Thursday afternoons. I once again have to thank the outstanding generosity with the super chats. I mean, it's just been overwhelmingly generous, and really truly appreciate everything that's donated. In fact, 2 more just came in. Kenta Wilson, I should say, drops a $2 super chat and says in all caps, Game Pass will be the death of Sony, period. I don't necessarily know about that, but I know it's going to potentially make Sony change their views on maybe potentially putting games day and date into there, because they obviously, if you look at the numbers, the 10 plus million versus the 2.2 million for PS Now, they're going to want those subscription services to be as high as Microsoft. And the way they can do that very simply is to change their ideology on the way that they deliver those first party games. And again, only time is going to tell.
Real talk. I'm sorry to interrupt. PS Now doubled by literally doubled in 6 months because of them putting or dropping the price and actually putting first party games sort of kind of in there. Please make them permanent. So if that's a death, I'm willing to die.
It's good for everyone. I mean, they just added Spider-Man, for crying out loud. I mean, come on. I mean, what how could you go wrong by that? $60 a year. It's just that I wish they would keep their games in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. It's just like, leave it there. That's what I'm hoping with the next announcement. It's like all of your PS4 games, bam, permanently in PS Now. There you go.
Adam, 6 months after release, but just then leave them in there.
Yeah, to leave them in there permanently. I think once they get there, they should stay there. But you know what? A gamer by choice. actually drops an outstanding and very generous $5 super chat, but he says something that's very interesting. He says Xbox should fund the Splinter Cell game or Ninja Gaiden with a great story and gameplay. Great show for great show, everyone. Well, first of all, thanks for the compliments, but I got news for you, my brother. I think one of those are happening. I think one of those are happening. I think one of those were supposed to be announced last year, and I don't think it's Splinter Cell. I think Ninja Gaiden is coming back to the Xbox in a big way as an exclusive, and I believe that is going to be funded by Microsoft. Again, it's a hunch. It's something that I heard. I have no proof on it, so don't take it to the bank and say, yeah, Boomstick said, but I believe that the Ninja Gaiden theory is going to be coming true, and I agree. I think that if Ubisoft doesn't want to pay for it, Microsoft should actually go to them and say, listen, bring back Splinter Cell, we'll fund it, you develop it, and we'll publish it. And I think that's what they should do. They absolutely should do that, and I believe it's time for Sam Fisher to return. But let's get to the outros and get everybody out of here as we cross the 2-hour mark for today's unbelievable new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. And Zemi Games, we will go to you first. First of all, the question of the day is, when are you grilling? When are you taking pictures? And when are you starting your YouTube channel that shows Cooking with Zemi in front of that grill? Dude, thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate you being a part of this show each and every week. It is really absolutely so much fun to know I'm going to work with you on a regular basis. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but more importantly, check out your growing YouTube channel.
Well, I can't answer the question on when I'm going to be grilling next, but I can say that I made some massive cookies. I made some massive cookies last night, and I posted pictures.
Damn it, I missed
huge, just huge. I mean, like bigger than my hand cookies. Just big chunks of like just chocolate, and they were good.
They look delicious.
Yeah. If you guys enjoyed, my opinions or anything like that, definitely check out my YouTube channel. It's called Zemi Games. I post a bunch of gaming content, gaming news, reviews. I've been starting to do some unboxings. And I just do a bunch of gaming stuff over there. You guys can also check me out on Twitter at Zemi Games. And then once again, if you guys heard something today that you liked, or maybe you heard something today that I said that you didn't like, feel free to send me a DM. My DMs are always open. I love interacting with community members. So definitely feel free to do that. And then I also post about gaming stuff. And then recently I've had a real fetish of just taking pictures of food and just posting them up on Twitter. I think I've started a movement on Twitter because I've noticed a lot of people in the gaming community are starting to post just like food pictures left and right, which I think is awesome.
I love it.
Yeah.
You definitely got me to do it.
Yeah. Anyway, boom. Amazing show. The topics were fantastic. I'm a little bit upset that we didn't cover all of them, but it happens.
Yeah, you know what, dude? It's just
next week.
Yeah, with both of them, the other two topics are originally written, so there's no real time frame from them. We will bring those forward to next week's show for sure, and stay tuned for what they are, because I think people are really gonna dig what we're gonna be talking about. But Archimedes, thanks so much for being here. I know that it's a little late by you, probably even past supper time, if you will. And you, my friend, are someone that I think is going to explode, not only in the YouTube game, but I think that you've become a really big fan favorite of the community on social media. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but more importantly, check you out on your amazing and growing YouTube channel.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me again. I've had a blast today. Great topics with a fantastic panel, so thanks again. Yeah, you can find my YouTube channel at Boxenberger. I finally did it. I uploaded a channel introduction. So if you're not sure whether you want to subscribe to my channel, just watch the 2-minute channel introduction video, and then decide yourself if you want to subscribe to my channel. I'm always discussing the latest in gaming on YouTube and on my Twitter channel. So if you want to talk gaming, just hit me up. My DMs are open, and let's talk games.
Well, excellent. Great to have you a part of today's show, as always. Next up, you know him as the voice of the trophy room, and some people consider him to be the voice of reason when talking PlayStation. Mr. Bedbit, thank you so much for hanging out, dude. And do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they could follow you on social media, check out your outstanding YouTube channel, and more importantly, have Sony deliver the news to you before your damn show goes live.
That's right. That's right. Sony, it's listen, I'm this close from calling it the Achievement Hall. You don't knock this off. But seriously, you can find me over at Bad Big Games, where we talk about all things games news, reviews, unboxings. Right after this, I'm playing Iron Man VR. I'm going to be giving my impressions of, so
Very
check
nice.
that out over at Bad Big Games. And you can find the Trophy Room, a podcast made by the players for the players, where me and my best friend Kyle talk about the latest and greatest on all things PlayStation. Latest episode right now, live on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and on YouTube at Bad Bit Games, where I try to talk Kyle out of buying The Last of Us Part 2 PS4 Pro Limited Edition because he doesn't need it. And then we place bets instead of predictions of what the PS5 reveal event's going to be. And let me tell you, it gets crazy, and I'm pretty sure Kyle cheated. So if you want to experience all that, again, YouTube, iTunes, Bad Bit Games, Trophy Room, all that jazz. Mr. Bad Bit on Twitter. You know the spiel, guys. Always fun to be here, man. Always fun.
Well, it's great definitely having you a part of today's show. In fact, most Thursday shows, and you will be returning tomorrow morning, where we're going to be talking a lot of Sony and Xbox June event news, where we're going to break down what we think is going to happen and what has what rumors are starting to fly around. And you'll be joining of course BitCloud Gaming, and we have a few other guests that I will be making the announcement of who's going to be there. It's going to be a lot of fun, so make sure that you tune in. As a matter of fact, you know what? Why even wait? Slow-mo Backslap will be joining us with Dreadpool for tomorrow's Breakfast with Boom, and it's going to be an unbelievable show. I'm actually just finishing the write-up. We're going to be talking some Call of Duty, Cold War. We're going to be talking about Xbox June event, Sony's June event, and a whole bunch of other things. So tune in tomorrow at 9 a.m. And continuing the outros, last and in no way least, you know him as our resident educator. He is also someone that is the voice of the Xbox Expansion Pass, who, by the way, has been really knocking it out of the park with his guests. And if you're not listening to his show, shame on you. Boo this person. Head over and check that out. But hey, Luke, first of all, thanks so much for being a part of today's show. Do me a favor, dude. Tell everyone where they can check out the Xbox Expansion Pass weekly, but more importantly, check out your outstanding opinions on social media.
Oh, thank you, Boom. I appreciate it. You guys can find me on social media at Insipid Ghost. On all the Twitterverses and such. As far as the Xbox Expansion Pass, man, I'm stoked to share with you guys what I've got coming up. I can talk about two of the interviews coming up. Last week we had Sissy Jones on, the voice of Delilah from Firewatch and in Darksiders 3 and Halo and a few others. This afternoon, I'm talking to Jeremy Gritton, who is the CEO of Playful Studios. They make Super Lucky's Tale,
Nice.
Words of Friends, and Age of Empires. Yeah, I'm stoked with that. And then next week, I'm sitting down and chatting with Jeremy Gritton, the art and story director from Moon Studios, making Ori and the Will of the Wisps. So you can look at that.
Wow, dude. Those are some really big gets. Congratulations, dude.
Thanks, man. Thanks. And so if you guys want to hear any of those interviews from past or present or future, please follow the Xbox Expansion Pass on all social media or podcast platforms.
Yes. Well, listen, thanks so much for being here. Once again, everyone, I want to thank everybody, the near 700 people that tuned in for today's show. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for making this one of the more popular and better Xbox shows on YouTube. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something lame to some, important to me. It made me a better man, made me a better police officer. Treat others how you want to be treated. And guess what, folks? It doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you, you are going to have an awesome day. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your holiday weekend. Be safe, be smart, and we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. Take care, everyone.